The effect of the priest in the world is certainly one of emanating God's love to God's people.
Actually, my father's a priest, and every day of my life I've seen a priestly life. It's a life where everyone who is in this life seems really peaceful.
I feel like I was called right after college. I started working with youth, and experiencing their faith kind of helped me determine what my faith was. And I realized that God was calling me to serve others in His church. And through the work with youth, that's when I decided, yeah, this is a call that I'm called to.
The church has always been a big part of my life. I've always acted in some, or been involved in some kind of ministry. I hadn't always identified that ordained ministry was in the cards. As I've gotten older, that looked like it was less and less a possibility. After having conversations with my priest, with members of my parish, I decided the least I could do would be to offer myself to the church and have the church make that decision for me.
I wasn't into it. I wasn't really into the church at the time. I left, and a priest saw me in the church, and he literally ran out of the church in all of his vestments, if you can imagine that, onto the sidewalk where I was standing still. And that encounter really brought me back. Feeling drawn to the priesthood was simultaneous.
I have seen it in action. There are, including my father, there are 4 priests in the family. And this is one of the reasons I think I was hearing the call and running as fast away from it as I could. Because it is a life of suffering. I mean, Christ suffered immensely. Of course, people who join Him, who participate in His ministry, will suffer. My life has changed in that I am able to experience peace even in the suffering.
So growing up, my grandmother was always very encouraging of my pursuit. And then getting older, I was very afraid to pursue because it's a huge responsibility. It's fearful to be a witness to people's burdens.
Last year I started my journey towards becoming a priest. And I think I've been struggling spiritually. I've been doubting. But every day I'm becoming stronger. Every day I'm going closer to Christ.
I responded just by showing up at first, just by coming to church day in, day out, figuring out what the life in Christ actually means. It transforms the world, that we are called, especially as priests, to transform this world that God gave us into something new and better, renewed in love, in this resurrected reality.
If you're sitting there thinking about whether or not a future in ordained ministry is for you, you're in the same shoes that any man has ever been in thinking about that.
Maybe you'll find a community here and people here who can really help you discern that and to help you grow spiritually. And even if you don't become a priest, you'll have gained something from it.
It's important to remember the words of Christ that said, "Many are called, but few are chosen."